This conference will now be recorded.
I was referring to a camera.
Oh, well, I have a few. A couple of them you probably wouldn't want. I've
Probably
been
not.
thinking about getting rid of my C100 and getting a couple of 4K run and gun cameras because I don't need a cinema camera. I'm not making movies, you know.
Yeah.
That's a
I
lot of.
usually I usually just use the EPI or EPS cameras. The little
Oh
these
yeah,
little
the
guys
Helix.
here.
Yeah,
That's what I usually use for mine. They're 1080p.
yeah,
I use them with my broadcast thing, the same thing you see up here now, and the videos, like all my videos on the internet are that made with that. They're not the best, but they
yeah.
work.
They get the
Like you
job
said,
done.
we're not making professional videos.
Right. So, all right. Looks like Joe joined us again, and Gleno, is that right? Hey, how are you? I see those Macs back there on the shelf. Those are probably worth about $1,000 a piece if they work, huh?
At least one's actually got the signatures inside.
Oh my goodness, that's cool. That's really neat. So I remember playing on those in elementary school, or actually it was probably high school.
Oh, you're
So
showing your age.
yeah, the old Apple IIe, Oregon Trail, all that good stuff. So I started off with a Timex Sinclair. It has a little Z80 microprocessor in it. That's how I learned machine language, or hex, kind of. I didn't really learn it. I muddled my way through, but
Wow.
all right. And Grant's our sales manager. He's on, but he's just going to kind of monitor. And Jason's our Rotoboss guy, and he looks like a chair right now, so we'll get back to him in a minute. And Robert is one of our brand ambassadors and one of our helpers, one of our partners at Thunder. He does a lot of those cool videos that you see, and also provides a lot of help and support in the community. So, and Joe, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Can't complain. Just really busy. So that's a good thing.
Good problem to have.
It is. It is. So, um, yeah, it's about 3:01. So we've got a couple other people. There's Patrick popping in there. I see Bill sitting over in the sidelines. Lillian joined us. Cool. So Glenn, is it Glenn?
Yeah, I go by Glenn or Glenn.
Okay. Are you a part of the Thunder family, or you're expectant, or?
I am actually. The Nova 51 is, let's say, about 95% set up. I haven't turned it on yet, but maybe tomorrow.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, well, I've been going through a few things with some people on that. We're developing some more resources on, little short outtake videos on how to do air assist and how to select it. We're trying to compartmentalize some of those videos, and I'm starting to put those out a little bit too. So, have you been browsing around in our support center at all at any of the documentation there?
Absolutely. It's really good.
Cool, cool, awesome, awesome. What kind of stuff are you going to be doing?
A lot of wood type. Mentioned maybe a few video conferences ago about doing some wood type for a letterpress.
Okay. Okay, cool. Do you have any questions? You're the relative newcomer here, so you can have the floor if you have anything. We can just jump right in.
It was just setting things up, and I noticed that everything kind of plugs into the back of the unit. Sometimes you have to move things to where you have a long enough cord, which is worked out at this point. But it'd be nice if they put like an attachment with the plug that you could plug it into a normal three-prong plug.
Gotcha. But now on the chiller, you can do that. That's a standard IEC computer
Right.
cable. So, that's an option on the chiller, and all of those plugs are the same way. As a matter of fact, for the exhaust and the air assist. Of course, since the machine controls those, you kind of want those to be controlled by the machine, but there are options to power them, other
Right.
ways as well.
Now,
So,
if I turn on the chiller and it's plugged in through the machine, do I need to turn the machine on first?
yeah. So the way that works is you have your main power coming in the machine.
Right.
it goes to the main power switch. Then below it is a laser power switch that's fed by the main power switch. So of course, unless your main power's on, you won't get power to the laser switch. That laser switch used to only have the laser power supply on it. Now that's where they connect the chillers on the new models. So if you do not have that switch on underneath the main power switch, you will not get chiller power. So you'll have to have the chiller switch on as well as both switches on the machine for the chiller to be active.
Gotcha.
Hey, awesome. What's going on, man?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Hey, that's a little different hat. We got 3 different styles going on here. We'll have to
I like
ship them
Jason
back and
mine's
forth.
better.
We can swap.
I love this hat. I like the colors.
Yeah, I like blue too. I don't know about yours, Brian. It looks kind of cheesy and old, you know.
It makes my eyes pop a little bit.
That's my face that does this awesome. It's not the hat, I assure you.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. I got the little thing over here that gives me some experience, but Robert outdoes me on that one. Oh, and Glenn too now. Damn. I thought I was the oldest in the group.
Nope. Lillian, I see you in there. I know we're working on a few things on your thing. How are you right now?
Good. So I did a few more things. The air water separator that was leaking, I think it was part of the problem. Maybe with cutting. So I'm being optimistic that it will work out.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I'm sure it will.
Acrylic polished edge is actually because of the air assist.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what we were looking at. So, and that makes a big difference. If it solidifies that acrylic, prematurely, it can cause all kinds of crazy output. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you're
What's
getting that dialed
running?
in.
35 or 24?
For the acrylic, actually, I have it programmed right now to do the low side because even at 25, it is getting frosted. It's too much air in the mix. So it's I have it turned so that it's barely flowing in there, not to do a flame. Because the first time is I totally turned it off and I had flames. So that was kind of scary. But to get a polished edge, I think, I'm just doing, I think just trial and error. But I figured out how to get the polished edge.
Yeah. You can tell if you can see through there when you're cutting and look at it, cross sectionally, you can tell if there's going to be beam drag. So
Yeah.
if you're going too
Yes.
fast, as it's cutting, you'll start to see that it'll lay over sideways and it'll drag at the bottom. There'll be beam drag, and that's one thing that gives you those striations. So as it's cutting, if you can make sure that it doesn't puddle behind it and have any beam drag, I think that'll give you a good result. Russ Sadler did a video on that stuff quite a while back. And
so one of the things that I had a question on with light burn, if I have an engrave and of course a cut, right? Can I assign a different focal point for my cut and my engrave?
You can. The tolerances there are very thin. I normally don't recommend people turning on the Z-axis control in Lightburn because it does crazy things sometimes, at least until you have a good understanding of it. But yeah, the controller, the software can control the Z-axis, so you can do things like steps per pass. If you wanted to do multiple passes on a cut, it would raise it a little bit incrementally each time. But you have to be careful because you only have about 4 or 5 millimeters to play with there, because our nozzles are already 6 millimeters from the surface, just at normal focus, and you need at least 1 millimeter. You can't have it touching. So you only have, about 5 millimeters to work with, and that's a pretty tight tolerance. So if you do something
Well,
the wrong
for engraving acrylic, they recommend, actually, I find it smoother engrave if you actually defocus. That means it'll be higher. So if your material is 3 millimeter, then you want to add 2 millimeter. So it's actually going to raise
that can be done with Lightburn.
Okay.
I think that would be something that you could experiment with on a one-to-one thing, in a remote session to get it to work correctly. But yeah, but we can do that. We can have it where it'll set you a couple millimeters, 1 millimeter out of focus for the engrave.
Yes, out of focus is good.
So you can focus into the material a little bit for the cut with some limitations. But there are some possibilities there that I can go over with you.
Okay, I didn't know if I had to send the job separately. I mean, I can do that as well.
Uh,
Yeah,
you can, you could just turn off your cut layer, and run your engrave and then move your bed up a couple of notches. That's the safest, quickest way to do it. But I'll be glad to, delve into the light burn part of it where you have Z-axis control if you like.
Okay.
We definitely explore that.
Wonderful, thank you.
hmm Hey, John, how's it going, man?
Hi, Brian. How are you? How's everybody?
Doing well. You've been making cool stuff on your laser?
I've been sure trying.
I've done tests, but I haven't made anything.
I, I do have a question about acrylic if you have a second.
Sure, absolutely.
I'm trying to cut. I have an order for what I'll call tracing boards. Teach kids how to do their numbers and letters and stuff.
hmm
And the numbers and letters are dots. They're not lines. They're not. It's just dots.
Okay.
And if I burn it, if I etch them out or put them on the laser with the masking on it, it's like a pain in the neck to clean. It almost like it burns the cover, the masking into the little dot.
Yeah, that
And
I've seen that before. That's why I don't mask my acrylic.
Yeah,
So I should take the mask off, is what you know.
At least on that side.
and put Dawn.
Mask causes me more problems than it ever did not having it. If you got your settings right, you don't need it.
Well, it depends on if you have paper or if you have cast or extruded acrylic. Are you using,
Well-
is it a paper backing or a plastic backing?
It's
Man.
it's cast acrylic.
The
It has
paper
the
backing
paper
burns up
backing.
on me too.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with the paper
Yeah,
backing.
it
Usually, if you use
contaminates my work, so I quit using masking. But I mean, to each their own.
yeah,
Brian, you use nothing.
I use nothing.
So
I saw somebody was using dish soap or something.
I
Well-
use Dawn. I use Dawn. So you just take the problem with the paper masking is the weeding, right? So after it burns it, you have to use Gorilla Tape if you want to remove your masking. But what I've done is it'll be faster because I made a lot of those alphabet trace boards. Is I actually remove the paper masking and then put don't dilute the Dawn, just put the Dawn in there, and I use a paintbrush to put it on top of the acrylic, and then do your engraving, and then just wash it afterwards, and it just cleans it right off. Easier than removing the masking.
Yeah, because it seemed like because I ran out of acrylic because I burned a whole bunch of earrings and I have no more clear acrylic. So I had a little piece. I sampled it, and it would take me forever to get the masking out of the little dots.
hmm
And I really, because I don't, I leave the masking for the earrings. I mean, I do these little earrings.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with the masking, but it's just when I do these dots. Now I don't know, maybe I'm hitting it too hard. That could be too. Maybe I'm putting too much power to it.
I don't know. I've cut with the masking on, but usually when I'm engraving, I don't. But that's just me. A lot of people have really good success with it. Sometimes you need it if you're going to paint fill, or something like that. You'd want it masked. It could be power. I don't really think so. You ought to burn through that backing, pretty easily. That shouldn't be a big hindrance. I have to probably see some images, some close-up images of it, and get a better idea of what the output looks like.
Well, I'm going to go to Manhattan tomorrow, pick up acrylic. Maybe stop in Little Italy or something, get some pizza. But
Right.
but or go to Chinatown, one of the others. You guys don't know about that stuff, but but then I'm going to try it, and if I still have a problem, I'll call you, and maybe you can look at it and see.
Absolutely. I'll be glad to walk through it with you. Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Let's see, Lillian, do you have anything else while we're discussing acrylics or anything else for that matter?
Well, the next material testing for me is leather.
Okay.
Wish me luck.
That smells really good.
So hopefully, so one of the questions I have is how do I test the output power of my laser? So if I'm doing all of this material testing and the laser is not up to spec, that means I'm just wasting all my material doing my, material testing because it won't be accurate, right? Correct?
That is correct.
So I didn't know if I want to proceed like because I want to test the materials that I am currently using and I will be using so that I have the settings dialed in. I don't have to waste materials when I make stuff.
Right.
Right now, since the issue is I I don't know if the beam of my laser is too fat, so that's why it's not going. I mean, that can be a problem. I don't know. So right now is at this point, my machine is 3 days old, and if it is not able to cut through, I have to dial in significantly the settings to be able to cut through. um how do I mean, at this point I just want to verify
Sure.
one, the machine functioning properly, giving me the correct output. If it's 100 watts, I mean, I'm okay with 92, but
Yeah.
having
So
to, yes.
yeah, on that, you'll get at least 10% over what the rated power is. So if you have a 100-watt machine, you'll have at least 110. It's probably a little more. I did send you a thing, guys, for a little backstory. She's having some possible power issues. It's really hard for her to cut through what 1/4-inch MDF hardwood back.
1/8 inch is
100 watt.
yeah, is
That's not
doing
really
20 speed 90 right
so.
now.
So we're working through that now. We worked through all the optics and all that stuff now. Now, Lily, I did send you an update. There's a sheet where you're going to pulse your laser at 10% power, and then at 20, and then at 30, and write down what the current output is of your power supply. And that's the first step. And that way we can look at the power supply and make sure it's good, and then we'll move on to the tube. So we do have plans in place, and I've responded to that one.
Okay.
And as soon as we can
Great.
get the power supply verified, then we can move on to the tube. And there is a test besides you having the the $400 meter to do it. If I have to, I'll send you one, but I don't think that'll be necessary. We have some ways to get pretty close to see if it's within spec or not without having to go through all of that. So we'll walk you through that stuff this evening and get you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Robert, what you got going on new? Anything?
No, same old stuff here, Brian.
Yeah. Okay. Got any videos planned? You want to give us a sneak peek or give us a
Yeah,
teaser?
it was funny. I'll be kicking out another video this afternoon. I had such a great response on that plywood storage system that I posted yesterday, and had a lot of people asking me about, I'm brand new to my laser. How can I make it? That kind of stuff. So I sat down this morning and put one together. So I'll kick that out this afternoon. So, but it's a great beginner's video. It shows you how to do a little node editing, and great for somebody that hasn't spent a lot of time in Lightburn.
Right. Awesome. All right. Bill?
I only have one comment I want to make. Hey, Glenn, you don't need those old Macs to run Lightburn. You can use the newer Macs too now. No. And that's what I learned on the Macs. What was the game we used to play on those Macs? The Trail, Western Trail or something?
Yeah, Oregon Trail.
Yeah, Oregon Trail.
Yeah. We were talking about it.
I saw them like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. I thought I'd never see those things again.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's not an Atari sitting over there next to him.
Oh, that's right. That I would come over and play with you with.
Or even a ColecoVision. So.
Used to have the Radio Shack TRS-80.
No way.
Those are cool. Yeah, remember have to hit the turbo button, and you had to have a math coprocessor to run AutoCAD. But I like the digitizer pucks from back then. Where it had the crosshairs on it, and you could actually trace an object on paper and get it right into AutoCAD that way. That was kind of neat. So, does anybody else have any questions or comments while we're on?
I have a quick one.
Yeah.
Can I use antifreeze in the chiller?
According to the manufacturer of the chiller, yes. The common consensus in the Chinese laser world is to use RV antifreeze, which is that stuff you pour down the drain. It's the pink stuff. It's not ethylene glycol, it's propylene glycol or something like that. But
right.
Adding anything, you know, these are DC excited tubes, and there's 30,000 something volts running through them. And anything like tap water that has a high mineral content, the conductivity of the water matters a lot. So adding some of those compounds can affect the conductivity of the water, and can cause the laser tube to short down. The other thing is automotive antifreeze is typically suited for metal and automotive type materials in the cooling system. And laser cooling systems have silicone tubes and brass bushings and some other components, you know, that are polycarbonates and things like that, that I heard can be corrosive if you're using the RV antifreeze. But again, like I say, the manufacturer of the chiller says to use it, but we usually recommend RV antifreeze.
Okay.
If that's a must-do thing as a last resort, really, as opposed to any other mitigating, you know, ways that you can try to help with the temperature and keep it from freezing. So.
And I just have a reminder for everybody that, at least that's on the thing, that remember to send me your tips so I can add it to the worksheet. I think I put Lydian's acrylic tip in there about using soap or something.
Mm-hmm.
So don't forget that. That way it'll be just easier just to pick your item and say, what do I need to do? Oh, here's the tip. Great. Off I go.
Yeah.
I have another tip for the people that are cutting acrylic, especially mirror acrylic. The flash burn, sometimes the honeycomb will have a flash burn that, you know, with the mirror acrylic, it, you know, shows fractures on the cut area because of the flash back on the honeycomb. So I was able to find some, I know people have used rivets, you know, the riveting gun on the honeycomb that would work. I was able to find the spike that they use for leather work.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the spike point, you actually have a finer point on the acrylic, and it works really well. So I will send a picture, I will post a picture in the group, and somebody posted some honeycomb pins. So if you have a material that's warped, amazingly, they also work with the spike on the bed. So.
Okay. Yeah, I used to make pin beds out of those studs, out of those spike, you know, collars, and for my K-frame. And that does work good. Now our blade system, if you're doing bigger stuff, our blade system does a really good job of preventing that reflectivity. So
yeah, but for small pieces, like intricate cuts, earrings, it will just fall through the blades. But for bigger ones, like big signs, definitely blades would be a way to go. But anything, keychains, earrings, you know, or, you know, that you want to recover, the cut out, then I like the fact that the honeycomb, you know, catches all of that stuff.
Right. But yeah, just getting it stood off of that honeycomb definitely helps with that flashback big time. So that's cool.
And I have a question. Do you guys have like a Google Doc for the settings, or is just a PDF?
Well, yeah, we've got PDFs for each of the tube sizes. And then there's also Lightburn files that you can upload right into the library of those. And then Awesome was talking about on the global group, they do have a document that has tips and speedness and settings, you know, by laser power. And that's kind of the community go-to on that. If you're looking for some, you know, other than baseline settings, if you're looking for settings that people have used and had success with, that's a good place to look as well. Looks like we had somebody else pop in. Selena, how are you? They're muted too. So Patrick, I see you over there lurking. I guess everybody wants to be quiet. Okay. Well, you guys draw straws or something, and somebody go for it. Tell me something good. Jason, you tell me something good, man.
Something good.
He's coming out with a version 2 of the Rotoboss.
Caught up with the Rotary order so far. Finally.
Yeah. So, yeah, I've been pretty slammed with just general calls all day or all week. This whole week's been crazy, and I think it's going to go up. You know, and we've tried to scale. We've got enterprise level service support infrastructure already, but now we're starting to actually have to use it. So I feel it, but it's good. I like seeing all the activity.
So you're probably gonna have an increase in traffic because there's a lot of people that are Glowforge users that are placing orders for the Thunder.
We've noticed that influx in
Sorry about that, but I've been posting in my groups, and they've been drooling over my machine.
Well, that's good. We need to send you a swag pack.
So, and Glowforge, because it is a web interface, it was actually down. They had server issues today. So, again, that kind of like everybody is looking, what machine do you have?
So every time their website goes down, they start buying machines.
Exactly.
Nobody could work that.
Because I told them, here's my backup.
Wow. Yeah, it's surprising. Hey, Patrick, how's it going with you, man?
Good.
Awesome.
Working on some different things, just started playing around, trying to get my artwork right for the Rotary and understand the stretch, and the the image and getting it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of rabbit holes there, but it's neat. I'm still working on my images. I'm still not great on images. So
Is the logical thing to do with something like that, like if you take something and you like tape it up and you go low power on it and you test, take a measurement of, like, let's just say like my the height of my text was 1 3/4 inch, like see what it ended up coming out to, look at what it was set to, and then try to scale it down by that percentage of difference, try and get it into that range? Is that ideally what is the smart thing to do?
yeah, I mean, a lot of times it's just visual. Now, I use my camera to place my artwork even when I use the Rotary, but I don't use it for the coordinate systems. I still use current position, but I just use it to scale the artwork basically because it's to scale. But yeah, anyway, yeah, you can take a measurement. If you're trying to make sure that it's the right measurement, you can always do a square, do a 20 millimeter by 20 millimeter square and measure it and make sure that it's the same on both. And then honestly, whatever you put in there after that should be perfectly to scale.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, because I guess what I was trying to do is I'd worked on my artwork, and then, unlocked the,
the aspect ratio.
Yeah, and then scaled it down by, between like 15 and 18%.
Yeah.
And it was within 1/8 of an inch of where I needed to be. It worked out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and if you notice that it's off a little, there's some manual controls in Lightburn in the camera system where you can do an offset. So if you notice, every time I open my lid and put something down, I'm 2 millimeters to the left and 2 millimeters down, and that really shouldn't be. If you can determine that, you can adjust that in those offsets so that you can calibrate your view to what's actually going on if that becomes necessary.
Yeah. Do you know if there's been any updates as far as the Nova 51 and the Lightburn camera? Like if they got something coming that's going to be able to work?
They're checking on it. I mean, there's another camera that would work probably. It would probably have a wider field of view, so it would catch more of the bed, which ultimately at the end of the day wouldn't really matter because all that stuff's cut off and gone anyway.
Yeah.
That'll be something that I probably need to check with Lightburn about because that's just that one particular camera I think that's not Mac compatible. Or those two with those two chips in them. There's two different.
I don't have a camera right now. I've tried to just take my camera and USB it to the computer to see if I can get it to work. Nothing works. So Grant was working with me to send it back.
Okay.
And then ultimately, whenever I guess they come out with another one that works, I'll purchase that. But I've just
let me see if I can find an alternative.
Okay.
I'll work on that this afternoon. Well, I don't know about this afternoon. Tomorrow, I'll put it on my list to see if I can come up with a camera for the 51 people that have Macs, and I'll publish that and let you know as well what we come up with.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question regarding the Lightburn camera.
Sure.
So if I have the my machine connected to the Lightburn via Ethernet,
Mm-hmm.
do I have to connect the Lightburn camera to my computer via USB, or could I also use the Ethernet? So right now I have it set up just like what you did on the video, where I have the Lightburn camera connected to the UDP.
Right.
So do I have to have a USB cable connected to that, to my computer, hardwired to my computer to the camera?
Yeah, Lightburn only supports USB cameras at this point. There is a
Ah.
workaround where you can use an Ethernet camera and use a virtual LAN to USB adapter solution. That's a software driver, a virtual driver. But there's a lot of latency there, and most IP cameras that you get are not going to have the right aspect ratio or focal range field of view at that resolution to be able to do that. So as of right now, they're USB only is the only support.
Okay.
And matter of fact, the cameras are totally a function. You know, they're basically just USB webcams. They're totally a function of Lightburn. It has nothing to do with the laser except for the fact that it happens to be mounted to the lid.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm actually starting to use that camera quite a bit too now. Learn a little trick. I always keep a little crosshair ready to go and put it right on top of my object that I'm going to burn. Double check to make sure it hits that spot right where it's supposed to. If it doesn't, use the offset to get it adjusted, set the image up, and go. So it's really quick and fast that way now.
That's a good idea. Make a crosshair for visual reference so you can line it up visually right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I use the LB where it says go to a coordinate. So I'll just drop a pin on the crosshair, and I'll see if the head moves on top of it. If it doesn't, I do a measurement like, oh, it's off by so much. Use the offset just like you said. Gotcha. Adjust it, test it one more time. If it's on, great. If it's not, make the adjustments again, and then when it's ready, go for it.
Yeah.
So that's been working out.
I'm looking forward to using it as a print and scan for sublimation. Because right now with sublimation, I have to cut the figures and sublimate. But what I want to do is sublimate the whole board and have a snap mark, just like what you were saying is a crosshair, so that when I send the artwork in, you know, you just point it to where it is.
You know, Lightburn has print and scan.
That's what I was gonna use.
You don't need the camera for that.
Oh, okay.
Any way you can get that digital image in there and get it scaled, it'll work the same way with the registration marks.
I wanted to see the overlay to make sure I'm kind of sort of with that area.
Well, see, honestly, it's going to see the registration marks, and it doesn't matter about the overlay. Wherever those two marks are, it's going to calibrate the entire scale of that whole artwork to that. So as long as your registration marks are in the right spot, I don't know that placement doesn't even matter. I don't think. I haven't used it because I've never needed to contour cut anything.
When you do it, you overlay your contour over the actual design. So whatever you're sublimating, if you overlay your outline over it and you just put like a crosshair in the top center or something like that, and then you line your laser up, your red dot with that after you print it, everything will just cut straight from there. But you use the overlay, and like I use Corel, I'll use the overlay on that, and then I'll export everything to the laser, and then that way it knows it sees the image, and it also has the outline for your contour cuts as well. So that way you can everything's lined up straight from the get-go. You don't have to shuffle it around.
Yeah. So that's pretty neat stuff. And Lillian, oh, that's right. Are you waiting? Do you have one of the 51s? Do you have one of the cameras that's not Mac compatible? Is that your deal?
No. I'm waiting for my USB cable. That's it. I'm going to set it up.
Gotcha. Okay, I gotcha. Well, let me know when you set that up. And if you're running any trouble, I'll help you out with it.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, any of you ladies in that laser mom whatever group?
Yes.
Since the men are not allowed in there, I've heard some
No,
good
men
things
are
about
allowed
it.
in there. What are you talking about?
Hey, I tried to get in, she rejected me.
I don't think that was
Really?
because you were a
Yeah.
man,
There's
Austin.
no way.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Somebody
gonna make
said only
our
ladies allowed in
own
here.
site then.
Well, no, I've heard so much good stuff that there's excellent learning stuff. I happened to see, I think, one of her free first sessions, and I was like, holy smokes, this is some great learning stuff in here. And the next time I try to join, it's like, nope, reject. I'm like, oh, damn, okay.
No, there's a lot of men in that group.
They probably
Maybe I
thought
need
you were
to
going to
try
try to sell them
again.
a thunder.
Tell Clay
I
to
even,
join because Danny is in there too.
what? All right, maybe I need to be invited by one of the members in there or something. I don't know. That was kind of
Well,
like,
I'll
okay.
invite you.
No, I'm hearing so many great stuff that they have such good classes. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, bring me in.
Yes, he's
Gotta
got.
get rid of the hat. It's the
Uh,
hat. She won't let you in with the hat.
Well, I've already got the Lightburn swag coming too. Maybe if I wear that, she'll let me in. I heard she loves
Yes,
Lightburn.
yeah.
Okay. No, I got my Lightburn coming in soon.
Lightburn is easy to use.
Well, that's what I think. Or you know what? Maybe she heard my name that I make fun of the Eon whatever laser she has, so maybe that's why.
That would
I
do it.
always say, who wants to buy a built-in chiller? For God's sake, get an external chiller that's more effective. Like that's their product. Or the other thing I say about their lasers is like, that's great. The discounts are amazing, but by the time you add shipping in there, it's actually more than Thunder. So why would you go for the discounted laser when you can get Thunder the first time and be good with it? So
Yeah.
I know she's a big supporter of the other laser companies. So maybe that's what ticked her off. Like, you little punk.
Hey, are you a member of the Glowforge user group?
Who, me?
Yeah?
No,
You need
I
to
don't want to be in
join.
Glowforge.
You need to join because that's when you get the business.
You know, I did something last night. I had a guy that mentioned that he went from a Glowforge to a Thunder and how much better it was and that kind of thing as far as, you know, the build quality and support and that kind of thing. And I messaged him back and I said, would you mind making that Glowforge hashtag? So I'm actually hashtagging Glowforge in some of these posts. Is that crazy? Should I do that?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
you need to do that. Are you crazy? You tag
Hey,
anybody
if
and
I can
everybody
get
that have any
machine,
lasers.
if I can get machine to cut properly, I can do a video demonstrating side by side on how fast each machine. Because right now, I have a job that I do. I mean, this is my bread and butter, and it takes 15, 16 minutes, one in Glowforge. And I just ran it in Thunder yesterday, and it was 5 minutes. This
Was that you
includes
who posted
engraving
yesterday,
and
or
cut.
was that you who posted Lady yesterday about that? Like, it took 5 minutes to cut on a Thunder and it
Yeah.
takes like more than, that was you?
Yep.
Well,
That's
you got
mine. Oh, yeah, because I'm actually have a photo engraving that took 2 hours that I'm going to try to run and see because engraving is the frustrating part right now with the Glowforge. It takes
you
forever.
gotta remember a Glowforge is a hobby laser. It's not meant in any way, shape, or form for commercial use.
Absolutely, but people buying it as a starting just like me, it's a hobby laser, right? And you outgrow it. But then they're expecting, that's the reason why a lot of people are expecting a commercial laser out of a hobby laser. I mean,
Well,
I Forge for
that
prototyping and everything. So
well that people get sold on the web-based stuff, which is complete junk, anyways.
It's the marketing.
Well, it is. It's like I mean, I won't advertise for anybody else, but there's another laser company that their business is built on marketing. Period. Not just Glowforge. I'm talking about a rebranded Chinese laser.
Is it a
Dremel,
But they're
Dremel,
well,
what? Yeah,
it is a G Wiki, but it's rebranded with somebody else's name.
Yeah.
yeah.
But
But
nonetheless, their marketing is what sells their products.
Except for the chillers, they want $900 for a $400 chiller.
Oh yeah, yeah. And
I will say that, sorry.
go ahead.
I was just going to say that the Glowforge marketing is kind of what got me interested in having a laser in the first place. So there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
and it's also like the cricket.
I mean,
A lot of people start off with a cricket, and then they go, I need to do something bigger, so
Yep.
they go and get a Graph Tech or a Roland or something like that. So
Yep.
it's the same thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a
No.
stepping
No.
stone. So yeah,
But
that's
it also is
So-
enticing, like with the other said companies. It has a lot to do with your business situation too, or your financial situation. I know Thunder and other companies are more apt to do financing of some sort nowadays versus what they were years ago when I got started in it. So having the ability to have something financed that you otherwise wouldn't be able to afford made it appealing as well. I don't know if Blowforge does that or not, but I do know
Yeah.
it.
They do, but with the Glowforge, okay, so it's the type of people that you want to attract, right? So the people that are buying Glowforge is the people that it's kind of like an Android and an iPhone. So Glowforge is basically an iPhone, easy interface, touch, whatever, nothing. For me, if I didn't have any experience with the Glowforge, understand how the laser works, the technology, and I go straight to Thunder, I mean, Brian's gonna be pulling his hair out. He won't have any hair left because of all the questions I'm gonna have. I mean, for me, it's kind of like a lot of people are going in there. They don't even know, oh, what is this button? How do you connect to this? How do you do the cut? But it's simple like that. If they have to go and learn light burn and then the controller, I mean they're gonna be totally lost. So it's the marketing as to the I guess the technical aptitude of people that they
Yeah.
are willing to do it. So you don't have to be anything technical. All you need to do is push a button and it's done. So
That's the way the
that's
market.
I'm really surprised at how easy the Thunders are because, if somebody's never seen a laser before, especially, or they've just used one in the makerspace or something, or their cousin has one, when those things land, it's like an alien spacecraft, like what in the world, it's a totally different world. But I've been surprised at how easy it is for people that have never been around a laser before at all to get these Thunders set up and actually start using them without a whole lot of interaction a lot of times. And because I come from a world where I was doing service level agreements, support in my previous thing, and we'd go on site and work on the machine, talk to the customer, we get to come back and, actually go on site. And this is all remote. So it's added a whole new dimension to the way I provide support because you're heavily reliant on your end user, to use their eyes and ears and brain to help troubleshoot things and work through things. And I've been surprised at how adapted everyone really is to it. So it's been a real pleasant thing. It took me a while to wrap my head around how I'm going to provide remote service, completely remote service, but it's been phenomenal so far. So I'm glad that they have those systems in place to help with that.
I think most people that think about these lasers, if you have people that are coming in that have graphic art background and they understand how to use an Illustrator or Corel, that's that changeover from taking that artwork and prepping it and getting it into Lightburn or whatever makes the actual handling of the laser like nothing. I mean, if you have that background in art and you understand how to make those files,
right?
Setting out, putting a piece of material inside your machine and getting your settings right, understanding your settings, and then setting everything right. That's easy. That's the easy stuff.
Now, on the flip side, I have seen it where someone has a different laser and they've been so used to using that, they're so focused and so programmed that a lot of the nuances with the Thunder are missed. Because, oh, well, I don't need to worry about that because I already know how that works, but that's for a different laser, and there are some differences, and sometimes those can be obstacles, so it can work against you. But for the most part, like Lillian, for instance, her background already in just operating any laser has been a tremendous asset when we're trying to troubleshoot things and stuff. So normally it works out great. So I've been real pleased with all you guys. You make my life a little easier.
I see a lot of the questions that people throw in there, any of these forums. I mean, there's so many different forums. Is light burn, like how easy is light burn? Like that I think is like the learning curve. If you can understand that, and that's usually what I answer when people pop in and say, hey, how hard is it? If you can use Illustrator or CorelDRAW, and then you're going to find light burn to be like a seamless transition, and you'll be probably working in that 80%, 90% of the time within a week or two. You know, and just cutting down so much time on your artwork. You know what I mean? I used to spend so much time prepping my boards to get ready to go in Illustrator, and then bringing them into Glowforge, and then getting them all ready. This is ridiculous. I mean, some of the stuff that I can knock out in 10 minutes, you know, and I'm sending it to the laser, and I'm on to the next one. It's ridiculous.
I'm just sad Lightburn does not have a pulse feature built in the interface, so I'm just going to ask for a refund.
The G-code version does.
Somebody posted that. How come there's no pulse feature in the Lightburn interface, but there is one in the less expensive one? So I want a refund, and I almost want to just throw that computer out. I'm like, you're an idiot. Seriously? Walk 2 feet and press freaking pulse on the damn Rudia controller. You'll be fine.
Yeah. There's a lot of people still use RDWorks, and that's all they need, and that's all they care about, and that's fine, especially if they design in something else, like Patrick was saying. If they're used to Corel or whatever, and they just want to import it into RDWorks and just use it to control the laser, and that's it, that's fine.
By the way, you guys did hear that the price is going to go up, right, on Lightburn?
On Lightburn? Yeah, for 2.0.
Yeah, so if you want to buy support, right, it's now the right time. You get 2 months extra. So if you buy like 3 years of support now, you get 6 months extra on top.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't gone up before now. Honestly, this is the first price increase that I can remember in, and I've been a beta. How long has that been around? 5 years? 6?
Yeah, pretty much. It's been beta from the beginning, but it's been a solid product.
What's the cost going to go up to? I mean, it's only what, $80 a year right now?
Right.
Yeah, he's just gonna bump it up a little bit. I think like I know the sort of pricing of the lower one. I think he's gonna make it probably 70 and
for the G-code version,
40 for the renewal or something. But we're not sure yet. I'll let him make the final decision. But it's just because people are abusing his renewal pricing, which I mean, personally, I was like, Jason, throw them out. Who cares? They don't want to pay the renewal. Sorry, go buy it again.
When I bought FlexiSign for my vinyl cutter, it was almost $900,
Yeah.
So, I mean, $100 a year, so what? People, how many people have Adobe Suite?
Yeah.
How much you paying for your Adobe?
Yeah, no kidding. Adobe's expensive, and Lightburn's a great product. I mean, it's incredibly cheap for what you get, and the fact he's constantly developing it, and he's doing all the things.
And I don't know if this will change, but he is not in favor of the software as a system thing, like Adobe, where it's a monthly subscription. He does not like that business model. I don't know if that'll ever change. It may at some point if easier, but he likes to keep it more traditional, and I like that too. I don't mind a renewal, for all the stuff that he puts into it, man, it's worth it.
And it's not required to renew either. That's the other part I don't understand. People who complain about it, like, don't renew. Just keep what you've got. If you want the new feature, all right, deal with it. You don't have it.
Yeah.
So that's always an option. So,
I think he's the only software that I own that isn't of that business model.
Yeah.
I mean, QuickBooks, Autodesk, I mean, everything I use internally in this business and my other business is a subscription.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But,
yeah, I support industrial software that starts off at about 2,000 and goes up to a couple 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
And we're being pushed to go subscription, and our management's fighting like, nah, we don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. If we do, then that causes other trouble, because this is what's running the plant. Well, what happens if you don't pay your subscription? Do we shut the plant down?
Right.
I mean, seriously, what do we do?
Yeah, and I think part of the reason he's ramping up on that is I think he wants to do the same thing Thunder's been doing, which is strengthening the backbone, the business process and the service and support systems, because Thunder alone, we've probably added, I don't even want to think about it, these enterprise level support ticket systems and and appointment setting and all this stuff to make our our support stuff run smoother, so that we can scale to that volume when we get it. And I think that's what he's doing, is looking ahead, because as his service burden increases, he's going to have more systems in place to deal with them effectively. He sure doesn't want, the service to suffer, just like we don't. So he's probably willing to put whatever he can into it to make sure that stays on par. So, and which is where we're in right now. And we're starting to test our system. It's starting to come up. We're getting a lot more people, a lot more people. It's scary. So,
hey, Brian, sorry to put you on the spot. Is there any training plans coming down the pipe?
Training plans?
Like, let's say a user gets a laser, brand new, doesn't know anything. Here's the sequence of training videos or lessons you go through to learn your product.
We've got one loosely formed, and I've started putting out the things, like I'm trying to do it in sections, like I was saying, like the autofocus and the different heads and a couple of those things. All of those are going to culminate into one of those getting started step-by-step dialogues. Yeah. I'm going to try to emulate the manual as much as possible, because, most of that stuff's in there. And, even if I can just do bullet points through the manual, hook this up, do this. And then, as you said, once you get it connected, and then actually do a first run. And we've got rough versions of all that stuff now. It's just not put together very well. So that's what we're working on.
I got a question, Brian.
Yep.
So when I was watching that video you put out yesterday with the autofocus, my machine was one of the ones that came with it, and I think I spoke to you the first night I got the machine. I was trying to set it up and figured that out really quick. It's great. One thing I was trying to understand was Rick Herring was talking. He was doing some Romark stuff, like the blue, white, blue, and I do a lot of that for my job. And he was talking about he gets a better product when he sets it out of focus a little bit.
I do that. That's very common.
Yeah. So my question is if I want to do something like that, are we talking like 7 millimeters or 8 millimeters? Like how out of focus do we go, or do we go closer?
1 millimeter, 2 millimeter away, 2 millimeters max. That may be a little too much. What I usually do is I'll focus, and if I want to pull a little bit out of focus, I do it a lot on cups. I'll just drop the bed a notch. I'll just hit the bed and drop it, just whatever that value is, and that's usually enough. And all it does is defocus the beam enough so that it has a softer outline, so it's not so sharp, and it tends to blend everything in a little bit better.
Yeah. So. But what I'm saying is when he says out of focus, instead of saying a 6 millimeter from the surface, he's talking 7 millimeter from the surface, or 8.
Or so, right? Exactly.
He's not making it closer to the material. He's making it further from the material to get it out of focus.
Correct. Typically, the only time we focus into the material, although you may get a similar result, is if you're cutting, and you want your focal point not to be on the surface of the material, but to be in the material some. And I'm cutting.
A couple people were talking about that this week, and I don't know what materials are they using that for, acrylic or wood.
That actually works for anything, because if you think about it, if the best part of your focus is on the surface of the material, that means the other two sections of that beam where they converge and diverge, it makes an hourglass shape, even though it's not real defined,
Yeah.
And it can affect the cut. So that's where your densest power is. That's where you're going to have the most beam density, is right there in that focal point. So if you focus, for instance, if you have 4 millimeter acrylic, you want to focus 2 millimeters into it. So you'll focus to 6 millimeters, drop it down to 4, and you've dropped millimeters into the surface. So now you're focused dead center of the material, and it's not exactly linear halfway, but that's close enough.
What kind of an edge will you get on the material if you do that?
It'll be a little smoother, but you'll also notice a little bit less charring, and just a better output, because it's, you've taken advantage of as much of that focal plane as you can before it starts to converge and diverge.
Okay.
And that's why on the 4-inch lens, that's why that one's so popular. Now, actually, the 4-inch lens doubles your beam size, which actually weakens your beam, because your beam density is less. You have say 100 watts going into a beam that's twice the size as it used to be. So you've effectively cut your power in half. It's not linear, but
Yeah, because I had a question about, I was cutting 1/2-inch like maple plywood, and I was saying, hey, if I get a 4-inch, what will my settings be? And I think the answers were exactly the same. You know, like as far as running, say, 5 millimeters a second, 80% power. It's not like if I run a 4-inch, it's going to be 60% power. It's still going to be up there.
Yeah, and you may have to tweak it a little bit. Now, the cool thing about that 4-inch is it's got a 10 millimeter focal distance between the nozzle and the material.
Mm-hmm.
And you always need at least 1 millimeter so air can escape and so the head doesn't contact. So you have 9 millimeters of depth that you can get in. So theoretically, you could cut an 18 millimeter thick object and still have your focal point center of it.
Wow.
So that gives you a lot more focus because you only have about 5 millimeters to play with on the 2-inch head. You got 10 to play with on the 4-inch head, so you can focus deeper into the material.
I want to order that 4-inch head. How do I do that? Just contact Grant?
Yeah, you can just shoot an email to sales@thunderlaserusa.com and they'll get right with you.
They stock? Does that take time to get?
They're in Texas. We've got them in stock.
Cool. Okay. I'll reach out. I want to order one.
I see another Patrick. Hey, buddy. How you doing, man?
Doing all right. I messaged you a couple days ago. Finally got my order in for my 63-130. So that's going to be fun. We're just prepping the space now. It's turned into a kind of major overhaul of the garage. We've got a 16 wide, 50-foot deep garage, 20-foot high ceiling.
Right.
And we're just going to finish that all up and get it all done.
Nice.
I know that folks have said that, kind of a question for you. Folks have said that leveling the laser itself isn't super crucial as long as the gantry and the bed are plumb and square. Obviously you don't want to have it laying sideways,
Right.
but having a bit of a slant isn't the end of the world. That's pretty accurate.
That's pretty accurate. Ultimately, the only thing the laser cares about is how far the nozzle is from the bed or from the material. That's the focal point that matters. And there's a way to test that at all 4 corners. Now, like you said, you don't want to be able to set a marble on top of your laser and it roll off. You want it as level as possible. But again, you don't have to get down there and stare at your bubble and tweak it a little and stare at just get it ballpark and you should be good. The more level, the better. And some people might disagree with my nonchalant attitude about level, but mine's probably about a half a bubble off right now too. It's still working fine.
The level used to have to deal with mainly the water flow through the tube.
Yeah.
But nowadays that we got the CW 5000 and 5200 and all that stuff, and they're pushing plenty of water through the tube, being level is really not that critical anymore.
Yeah. I was surprised at the chillers at how quick they do move water. It changes water out in that tube, like a 100-watt tube, twice a minute.
Oh yeah.
Really moving.
That's pretty wild. The 5200, because I know that my laser will come with the 5200. Mm-hmm. Is that just more refrigeration power? Is it going to be faster?
Larger capacity.
Okay, so larger reservoir.
Well, it does have a larger compressor in it, so there's more BTUs. There's more cooling power there, which I think it goes like 500. I'll have to look at the actual specs, but the 5200 is actually, because it's like 20 more whatever, BTU's coldness or however they measure up or look. Huh?
It's a quicker tool. It's a quicker
circulation
turnaround, basically.
Yeah, the recovery time's fast.
It's a lot quicker on it because it's a bigger compressor. It's got more holding capacity, so it has the chance to cool more fluid more quickly.
And the pump's bigger in it than it is the 5000. The 3000 and the 5000 have the same pump in them. The 5200s is just a little bit beefier. Not a lot, but a little bit.
But the 3000 is not chiller though either.
Right.
That being said, it's just a circulator, I think, too. Yeah. So that being said, the 5200 and I also got an aftermarket compressor. Do those both still go plugged into the laser so it has control over them, or should I separate those off the laser?
The external compressor will be on its own circuit or on its own plug. You don't want to power your external compressor with that laser. The chiller is fine if it's designed, to plug into the machine. I'm sure they've made adequate. If you want to get it on a separate circuit, again, it's a standard IEC computer power supply, cable. So you could always choose to run it remotely if you wanted to on another circuit.
Okay, and then I also read someone that left their chiller on 24/7, 365, which is obviously not recommended. To get the tube to temperature, you usually turn on your chiller few seconds before you fire up?
I've never worried about it. It
Right before I hit start.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's instantaneous, pretty much.
Now, I will say this, and Brian can back me up on this, I'm sure. But the cooler temperature your tube has to run, the more efficient it's going to be. However, like I'm down here in Florida, I know people in Texas, Arizona, things like that, where it's really hot. It might be beneficial, especially if you're in an unclimatized area such as a garage, to let the temperature actually cool off before you start with your laser, just to help the efficiency. It's not gonna hurt the laser so much as it will the efficiency of the laser. And then also, if you start firing the laser right away and you're running your temperatures at 90 degrees, let's say ambient temperature in the space you're in, it's going to take a lot longer, if even possibly, cooling off that water. If you go straight to firing it at 90 degrees, it may never cool below 70. Because ideally you want to keep it below 70 for. I mean, it's just kind of a ballpark figure. I don't think there's any science behind it, but just generally you want to keep it below 70. So if you're at 90 and you start firing the laser right away, it may not even cool down. So if you're in those kind of
that's true, but now it won't fire if it's above critical fault temperature either. So if there's an alarm state, no water flow, low water temp or high water temp, it won't allow the laser to fire. So there are some safeguards built in.
That's really good to know. And now, do we have to worry about dew point also if it gets too cold?
You do need to watch your dew point. If you're in 90-degree temperatures and you're dropping it down to 19 degrees, you may get some condensation on the tube. My indicator of dew point is I look back at the laser, and if I see a drop of water dripping out of it, I know I'm not doing something right and I've got condensation. I'm in Tennessee, and it's really humid here, usually 90 in the shop here in August. And even at night when it starts getting a little muggy still, I can run it. I keep mine set on 20, and I've never had condensation. I'm not saying it can't happen. That is a thing. One thing to remember on these chillers, though, is when they come to you from the factory, they come in intelligent mode, which means it'll stay within 5 degrees of what the ambient temperature of the room is. And they do that because a lot of people put these in an air-conditioned environment, like Jason was saying. If you're going to run it in an environment where it's at 80 degrees out there, you don't want it 5 degrees plus or minus 80 degrees, or 90 degrees. So you'll want to switch it to constant set point mode, and then you set a static temperature, and it'll stay within 5 degrees of that temperature. And normally that setting's 20 degrees.
So that's really good to know. With my situation, we are going to insulate and HVAC the space, so it will be comfortable for a human, which would be really comfortable for a laser. Right. Knowing that there's dew point issues potentially and potential for actual drip, is there a tray underneath the laser tube to protect it from dripping down onto the components?
No, but there's a notification. If you touch the side of the machine and you feel a jolt, then you know there's probably something.
All right.
No, honestly,
it's probably a good idea to have your machine grounded anyways. But
if it's going to be climate controlled, AC pulls out your humidity anyway. You probably won't have to deal with dew point.
Yeah, here in Florida, I've run mine in a 90-degree shop, metal building.
Yeah.
And I've never. I take that back. I had issues, but it wasn't so much the condensation of the laser. It was the condensation in the room from the humidity. Because we have a lot of humidity here, and if you're in that situation, I don't know where you from, Patrick?
I'm in Seattle.
Okay, so you don't have to worry so much. You have a lot of humidity because it rains there a lot, but like you said, with the air conditioner, it's going to draw a lot out. Also, what I did is I got a dehumidifier, is what it is. It's got a drain tube in it, and it just constantly drains outside or whatever. And I'd run that in there as well. So when your AC's not on, you can still keep that condensation out of the space and help prevent any kind of residual. Because you think about it, if you keep your machine at, let's say, 75 degrees during the day, and then at night you don't have AC or anything going on, and it warms up to 80 or 90 in the garage or your space, you're going to create condensation
Yep.
unintentionally, even though you're not even using the machine. So that's what you have to watch out for. Because I had, when I first started doing this, I had it in an air conditioned space, and I'd go out after being in the shop all day, no AC at night, 90 degrees at night, come back the next morning, and literally the machine is dripping with
Yep.
water. I mean,
Wow.
it's that it could be that bad. So that's the
That's a
biggest.
really good point. I'll plan on buying a dehumidifier for that. A nice big burly one. And then I'm sure that helps with the materials too, right? Like your woods and stuff.
Yeah.
It helps keep them dry in the space.
Now,
Yep.
I will say something about the condensation showing up on the machine. We had the opposite happen. It was air conditioned area that the machine was in, that the laser was in, and they kept it at a really cool, like 68 degrees in there. And they did not have a louver or a baffle or a damper on their vent going out. And it would be hot and humid in there at night, but yet the machine on the outside was staying, 68 degrees, and that hot, humid air was coming into the machine and causing condensation that way because they weren't blocking it off from the outside. So that's something to think about as
That's a
well.
great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have a baffled exhaust. I bought. Actually, I don't have it handy, but it's really nice. It's a 10-inch baffled exhaust. I did the S10 inline unit we're going to use. Hopefully,
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get a second laser at some point when our business does well enough. Hook up 2 of them to that and be able to exhaust. And we're also hooking up a fresh air intake that's baffled as well, because you don't want to
Perfect.
create a vacuum in there from running that exhaust. And I'm hoping to keep that really close to the laser so it can have a small loop versus running across the entire garage.
Yeah. So you don't suck out all your AC.
Exactly.
What you could do also is plumb in a return box. So basically, and I helped another guy do this too, but basically the width of your machine, say it's 4 foot, you make a small box with a dampered valve on it, so it draws air in through the plumbing into that box, and then from that box it diffuses it right in front of the machine, so it still allows it to pull the air freely across the machine, but again, you're not drawing air clear across the room either, so it's directly
Yeah.
focused in front of the machine.
I'd love to see
help.
pictures of that. Actually, that's a pretty great idea. We're completely rebuilding our garage up from the studs to do this, so we've got rain to do anything we want right now, and we're actually, because of the drop in the garage slope, we're building up a subfloor. So I've got room underneath there to really get fresh air if I needed to, and we're going to run steel beams across the length of the garage to be able to support hopefully 3 Thunder 63s at some point.
Make sure you got a lot of good power in there. You need a bunch of 20s.
Yeah, we've got an electrician coming in putting in 20 amp dedicated quads, every 3 feet.
I would recommend if you're doing that to have them do a sub panel. Don't use your main panel. Have them put a sub panel in.
Yep, we're having a sub panel just for the garage, or just for the shop there, then a sub panel for each floor actually. Yeah, for sure.
Good deal. Yeah. Make sure too, because if you're using those bigger machines and all that stuff, you're gonna be drawing a lot of power. So most houses are a 200 amp draw, and depending on the AC in your house and all that stuff, you might have to be careful, because my shop has my house has a 4-ton AC unit. My shop has a 4-ton AC unit, and I was running three lasers, 4 3D printers, all kinds of stuff all at once. And the problem I'd have is when the AC kicked on or the air compressor kicked on, you would see a noticeable draw on the electrical system because the lights would dim or flicker. So making sure that you have adequate power, and if you're going to be running those kind of machines, you might have to upgrade your service.
Yeah, I was hoping to not have to go to the 400 service. We can. Our service is underground here, so it's our previous owner for this home poured 16 foot of solid concrete over the front driveway to flatten it out. So that's where our mains are coming in right now. So that'd be a hell of a job to get that upgraded. But I'll see what I can do with what we got now. I do run a printing farm as well. That's my other business. I do 3D printing. You can see some big printers in the background there. Yeah. So I'm trying to move this in there too, and hopefully we have enough juice to run it all. But I see you pulled up the stats here.
Yeah, just be mindful is all.
Yeah, I mean the 130 watt machine doesn't pull much more than a hair dryer. You know, just the laser power supply stuff. Now that 5200 is, you know, it's probably going to pull something, you know, around 5-6 amps. You know.
Yeah. Well, then you think as a combined unit, you're pulling probably close to 15 amps as a combined unit with the air compressor in there, the chiller, and the laser power supply, and all the peripherals on the laser.
Well, now, they're saying the power consumption for the 130 watt machine that includes the stock air pump as well as the stock exhaust fan. So,
okay, so
that's
20,
yeah.
So that's 20 amps. I mean, I don't know what kind of buffer they give you.
It probably pulls about. Now, I've had people run their 63s and their chillers on 120 amp outlet, and a lot of people have difficulties with that. So I'm thinking it's like 19.9 amps, maybe at full load.
I mean, like we talked about in a previous session, you know, how much engineering actually went into making sure that this system can run on American 110.
I can say it's probably going to be a pretty good bit, because what they don't want to do is have to undo that stuff from China. So I'm pretty sure they got their ducks.
No, understandably.
We haven't had any complaints yet, but yeah, you're
I
right.
can hook up a kilowatt too and get some real life numbers to you guys so we can get that spec'd out once I get set up.
That'd be beneficial, because that's a big question mark as far as with these new machines with the integrated peripherals in them. So it's one of those things that nobody really knows. I mean, on 220, of course it'll power probably double that on a 220 because the amp draw is a lot lower. But 110, the amp draw is a lot higher. So that's the only question mark, like I said.
Hey, Patrick, just to give you some food for thought. I'm an electrician by trade. I live in Florida too, but I know in Seattle, in Florida, with the utility companies, kind of same as we have here. They get away with a lot more as far as leeway goes. I know you mentioned your front driveway has got a lot of concrete, and you know, in order for them to upgrade your service, normally their wiring incoming doesn't change. It's your wiring. So like if you're going to put a 400 amp service in, it would still be a 2-inch conduit coming into the house. Let's say, look, in the National Electrical Code says that like we have to run 2-inch conduits with 3-aught cable to get 400 amps of service. For them, they can do whatever they want because they operate on a whole different level. So they run 2-inch conduit with 1-aught cable and get 400 amps out of it. We can't do that. I mean, so you may not have to do anything to the utility. If you ever wanted to upgrade your service, you may just have to change your switchgear. Your meter on the outside would have to be a 400 amp meter. Your sub panel that's feeding that is a 400 amp. But I wouldn't worry about the concrete outside. I worry more about the switch itself. But
I know my house here is set for 400. I mean, I'm on a 200 circuit.
I have a 2-inch coming into my house, and I'm on a 400 amp service at my home. We went underground when we upgraded and put a pool in, but I was like 2-inch, and they were like, "Yeah, that's all you need." I was like, "Okay, well."
That was interesting.
100 watt machine only draws 14 amps. That's the conversion for amperage is 1700 divided by 120 will get you the amperage, true amperage.
But the thing is the point I was making is if you're running off the same 200 amp service like I was, 2 full-size 4-ton air compressors and or not air compressors but AC units and things like that. I mean, you put a lot of draw. Even though the machines aren't pulling a lot, everything else is, and combined it could cause an issue down the line. So it's just something to look at.
I got to tell you, these lasers are incredibly resistant to any sort of line noise or anomalies on the mains power. Really, they are.
I was just going to ask you that, actually, because I'm considering putting a UPS in front of it.
Yeah. So I used to do copiers for a long time, and they were the world's worst about having to have clean power. We've spent thousands of dollars just on those Fluke VR 101 line event monitors, just so we can catch stuff and look at brownouts and neutral to ground clamps and all that stuff, you know. And the copiers were terrible about it, and so I had a little bit of experience looking at some of these power inconsistencies, brownouts, and neutral to ground impedance and that kind of thing. And these machines can really handle a wide variety of conditions. So they're pretty solid. So
that's great. So that would save me a bunch of money on having to put a big UPS in front of it. And the fact that you can continue a job, I know some people have spoken to you on the group. If you can pull the power on it, you can hit play and keep going where you left off on the job, which is amazing.
Yeah,
that's not 100% though either. It's just like you said, you deal with 3D printers and stuff like I do. Even though you got
you can get a layer line in there that's nasty.
Even though you got a print failure, doesn't mean it's necessarily going to start back where it's supposed to. Same thing with a laser. I've had it work, and I've had it be completely off. So I mean, it's not 100%. And the UPS, I mean, I don't know how your power system is there in Washington, but like here in Florida, I don't really ever have a problem unless it's a major storm. But I work around. If I have a lightning storm coming in, I know it. I make it a point not to run the machine.
For it.
Yep. And you know, and if it does on an off chance happen to fail when there's not a storm for whatever reason, I mean it's just
part of the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and last question on the power thing. Since I'm doing that external exhaust and aftermarket exhaust, I'm using the S10 10-inch inline. Can I plug that into the machine and run that off of it?
Oh yeah,
I'd prefer.
About the powers that quarter horse cap start fan does on that centrifugal. So yeah, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I've got a link to the adapter. It's a IEC to a standard, 15 amp 110 plug, so that you can adapt it. You don't have to cut the wires.
That'd be great. I'll take that link for sure.
Let me find it real quick.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I can't wait. I mean, I'm hoping that Thunder makes a fiber laser at some point here, because that'll likely be the next laser we purchase. And from seeing the quality, I see the smirks light up on the screen actually as I said that. So that's good. That's a good sign to see.
You never know what's going on in the R&D lab.
Because I got
no, it's great. I'm hoping so, and that's going to be the next thing I purchase. I know that there are other brands out there, obviously, right now. I did a lot of research, and Thunder really seems to have their engineering. So I'm hoping to get that same quality out of a fiber.
It's just a female version of you.
And then, eventually maybe even a combined source, right? So laser.
That would be cool too, for sure.
Hey, Brian, Lydian had a good question. I don't know if she's going to ask that or not. An extension kit or something? Cooler?
I don't know. I'm catching some feedback.
Oh, Lydian, are you there? Hello, Lydian.
I can't.
You talking about the extension for the chiller? Awesome.
Yeah, that's what Lydian asking. It looks like this chiller extension kit does not have power cord. Does anybody have a link to a longer cord? Do you know what she's talking about? Because I don't have the old style. I'll plug it in directly.
Is that the one that plugs into the chiller? I forgot about that.
Yeah, I think that's what she's talking about.
Yeah, you'll either have to plug the chiller up to a separate circuit if you want to move it, or we'll have to custom make you one of those. I forgot about that. See, these extension kits for the chillers are just made for the Nova 35 100 machines, so that you can put the chiller underneath the tube extension and make use of that space. On the 51s, they're not quite long enough sometimes, and 63s, they're sure not. And I totally didn't even think about the chiller cable being tethered to the machine now, so that could make a difference. But no, we don't have one of those specifically. Not saying we can't come up with one, but we don't have it available.
So Lillian, he's saying that as long as you hashtag him on the other forums, he'll try to work that faster for you.
I do see a speed work differential there. The more you tag Brian, the faster he works on getting it fixed.
Because he's got to look cool and sexy,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been known the more that I'm tagged, the slower I get. So we don't ever know how that's going to work. I'm going to kill the recording because these things are supposed to be about an hour, and I'm going to publish them. We can stay on here for a minute, and I'll look up that link, and we'll hit that. We'll talk about this other thing again, but I'm going to go ahead and stop that part.